Thank you, everyone. And this is a very exciting panel. There's some seriously strong stalwarts here on a very hot topic, which, very frankly, we've been listening about. The audience has been hearing throughout these 2 days. So here's a nice summary wrap up, but some real in-depth perspective from some very accomplished people. So it's my privilege to be on this virtual stage with all of you. And what I want to do just quickly, we'll go around so everyone can hear your voices for all of a few seconds there. Sophia gave a good introduction. So where are you located? And bonus question, which I'm sure you'll all answer, is one word for the role of insights. Just one word. We'll go around the room. I'm based in San Diego. I'm not going to preface one word because I am the moderator. So we're going to turn this over to who I see first, which is Miles. Miles, please. Where
perfect. In the hot seat. So currently I'm sitting in Sussex. I'm actually on a vacation at the moment, but normally based in San Antonio. Miles Drayton, Global Insights Director in what we call performance-driven marketing at General Motors. That is responsible for all of the media and creative insights leading down into site conversion. So all of the websites that we drive an interaction from the dealers all the way back up to our marketing leads, including strategic insights, which is a very important part of General Motors right now, as we try to gear towards an all-electric future. My one word would be drivers, because I think insights has the power to drive strategy from the power of its insights. So we have that power to actually shape decisions before they even arise. So we are the luminaries that basically drive those insights. So drivers would be mine.
Love it. Luminaries and drivers. David, can you follow that?
I will try my best. Hi, everybody. David Utica, SVP at Citibank, previously at Meta. And my one word would be impact. Because I think ultimately what I've tried to do throughout my career, and I think I'm sure we'll talk about more during the panel, is ensuring that we sort of retain our curiosity as researchers. I think that's one of the benefits of this great industry that we all work in. But it's curiosity with impact should always be sort of at the driving heartbeat of everything that we do.
And where are you based, David?
I am in New York.
New York. Okay. Lubov, your turn.
So good morning, everyone. Calling in from Japan. Very excited to be part of this conversation. So I'm based in Switzerland, and I'm responsible for care in Electrolux. My one more word to introduce insights would be the analogy with navigating the rough sea. So it's people who are staying hidden. So they call navigator helmsman. And they are helping to navigate the big boat. So for me, this is the analogy that can be applied for our role, the role of insight, especially at the time of the crisis where we all have an opportunity to elevate our role and drive the bigger importance of it by suggesting the right routes and operating in the challenging times, suggesting the growth opportunities for the organization. So summarizing one word, insights, helmsman or navigator at the sea.
Love it. Helmsman.
Helmsman, yes.
A word in a long time, or I've never had to say it in a while, but I love it. Okay, and thank you for being with us right in the middle of your, what time is it there right now in Japan?
3 a.m. in the morning.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. Double thank you to you. Joel.
Hello. I'm Joel, or Joel, however you want to pronounce it, wherever you're from around the world. Originally Australian, but I live in the Netherlands at the moment, working for IKEA. So IKEA is obviously a big Swedish company, uniquely franchisor, retail system, private family company, but headquartered out of Delft in the Netherlands. So been here for a couple of years now. My one word, and it's interesting to see the different words. I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you guys and learning from you. But the one word that came to mind was enlighten. Because if I go back to what an insight is, it should make you go, that's right. Like maybe, wow. So I think our job is to enlighten the business towards the opportunity or the challenge or the situation or the direction or whatever it may be. So, yeah.
Thank you. Sarah.
Yes, I'm based in Amsterdam, but my team is actually spread out geographically across the globe. I'm often in Amsterdam, but also a lot of the time somewhere else. And years back, I actually started as an agency research manager in FMCG. And now, of course, I really moved to health systems. For the monitoring business, that's the global market leader when it comes to patient monitoring for quick and confident and consistent care in hospital, but outside the hospital. And staying within health, I would say backbone, because I think what we do is really the backbone that connects and drives our end-to-end decision making. So actually from the first step in innovation that we take to actually closing the loop with the confidence of our hospital customers that experience and use our products, but also actually the many patient lives that we save with our state-of-the-art innovation.
Thank you very much. Very interesting set of words here. A lot has to do with us in a leadership capacity and making an impact on our businesses. And I think that is sort of our theme of the day, as we think about the future of insights and the challenges we face as a function in demonstrating that impact and adding value at all levels and across a very large, sprawling organization. Many of you are a part of very, very big companies. In fact, all of you are, and I'm sure are facing various challenges. But before we get to that, Joel, it'd be great if you could start us off here with telling us a little bit more about where and what do you think is where is the greatest impact? Where does insights have the greatest impact? Or tell us a little bit more about that in your mind.
Yeah, it's a super good big question. And I deliberate over where it's where or when or what. And they're kind of differences, right? If I take the where part, and I think there's three things, and trying to make it a little bit practical in that sense as well. I think the first one is often we think about insights as consumer insight, right? We basically represent the world and the people and say, hey, company, this is what you need to do for people. But actually, if we get back to what an insight is, it is, as I said a minute ago, really that right? It's not a fact. It's the why behind. It's not the what, it's the why, and therefore the so what. And the reason why I say that is if we look at, for example, insights at IKEA, one of the things that we've done now is we've made insights we used to be called CMI, right? So consumer market insights. But I just changed it to insights because we represent insights across supply chain, logistics, media, communication, consumer, retail, product range, the whole thing. Because the best insights are done across, right? From strategy to development to execution, then back around. It shouldn't be like siloed in. Insight shouldn't be something that says, hey, company, consumers think you're too expensive, go and fix it, right? Our job should be that thing where we go, hey, we're too expensive or we're whatever it may be. Now let's fix it together through the value chain, right? This kind of thing. So that's the first. I think it's not just consumer. The second one, I wrote down these three. I'm prepared for it. The second part of it, I think, is then what parts of the business do you actually create value? So when I think about a company like IKEA, I personally feel like we make, and actually it's probably not just IKEA, it's probably other companies too. I think a company is sort of made or broken based on the strategic choices that we make, right? Do we enter this country? Do we enter that country? Enter this category or that? What kind of do we want to be? So strategic choices. The products that we sell and the services, because ultimately people buy furniture, right? That's what they're going to live with in the future. And then thirdly, the experience that they have with us, right? We're a retail company. So if I'm going to have impactful insights, I need to make impact in the places where IKEA creates value for the world and what will make or break the company. So that's the second. I think the third one that I come to here, and I've learned at IKEA more and more, is strategic, operational, and tactical. So often insights is really looped in with the strategic part, right? It's like, where's the world going and what's happening in the business, and really thinking big, and it's right. And that's the starting point. But there's also an element of operational, right? And then like the projects that we do and the development that we have. But then there's really the tactical too, right? If you think about a business like IKEA, if I have somebody who's working in a store and interacts with a customer, I need that store worker, the coworker, to understand how to sell to that customer, right? what's going on in that customer's mind, what do they need, what are their dreams, what are their desires, what are their challenges. So it's very much in the day-to-day as well, right? So super strategic 10 years out, super tactical today. How do I drive sale and conversion as well? And so that's generally how I think about insights at IKEA, at least, is like that strategic to tactical, consumer all the way through to supply, and not just consumer, but the holistic part. So, yeah.
If I may jump in, Joel, I think that's a fantastic point. And we see it the same way at General Motors. When we think about the impact that we want to make, we broke it into 4 key things that we do. The first being, do you drive decisions? And that's your strategic that you were talking about. Are you able to change the arc of a direction of a brand or a strategy of a brand long term? Did you tilt the axis of where that direction of that brand is going? The second one is more on the financial, which is much more shorter term. Do you drive incrementality, so more value, more dollars, or efficiencies, doing things for less, for cheaper, so you're widening that value in that group? And then the final one, which we do, which is that daily one that you talk about, is time, speed to insight. Are we able to, through analytics, dashboarding, visualization, get people to that insight in a much quicker way, condense that time, so that then their time is spent talking about decisions and about what to do versus hunting for the actual insight and going deeper into those layers. So I hear what you're saying completely on that wide spectrum of how insights makes an impact.
It's really good. And so now I'm going to take so many notes whilst I'm listening to you guys as you're talking, because I'm going to learn so much as well. But I think it's really good, Mars. I think there's so much power in knowing where value is created, because then you can design according to that, right? I think often in companies and insights, we just jump in, and I think you guys can probably empathize. In insights, everybody wants everything. So you literally finish the day and you feel like you've been eaten bit to pieces, because everyone wants a piece of you. Like, what's happening here? What's happening there? What's happening there? And you're just like, blah, what do I do? And it's often that, like, all right, ignore that for a minute, stop.
Yeah.
Where do I want to drive impact based on where it's actually needed, right? So what's the noise versus the direction? So I think, Miles, having that kind of like classification is super helpful.
Yeah, it helps you work towards bigger things than just getting short order cooking, as we like to call it. Like, what's this number? What's that number? That's not the value.
Yeah, that's true. And that does also shift you, because insights has historically been data, right? And people love data. They're obsessed with data. But I remember somebody always said to me before, never respond to an email with data alone. Always give the insight with. Otherwise, you literally, if you're entering too many things, you end up just getting data out. It takes time to get to the insight, the why, the so what. So, sorry, Sunana, we're going on a bit, but.
Oh, no, it's all right. And David, I think you would like to say something as well, please.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to chime in. I think there's an interesting sort of, I don't know if you all feel the same way or experience the same thing, but people oftentimes will call groups either research or insights, and oftentimes it's trying to blend the two together and say, no, it's research and insights, or the research that leads to the insight. So I've noticed that in a couple of different places I've been, where it seems like a very simple kind of definition challenge or change, but it's so important, because ultimately, what's the good of research if you don't have really an insight at the end of it, where you're really informing the strategy and sort of building into those larger conversations that y'all were talking about?
Well, it's certainly a challenge. I mean, the scope, the mandate of insights becomes incredibly broad, yet it needs to be very specific and deep at the same time. And prioritization becomes hard. And also at the same time, securing budgets. To me, one of the biggest challenges, and Lubab, I'd love to hear your opinion on this, the value of insights, and how do you evidence that? How do you show the ROI to say, hey, this is the impact, but how do you quantify that, especially in a function that doesn't come to an output with a revenue or a P&L behind it?
This is a brilliant question. And just to build on the Joel's point, that continuously communicating value is very important and critical thing, because no matter which function you're working for, the small function of insights or very much established function, you have to communicate the value with very small projects, because it builds trust, and that allows people to think about you or your department or your team to give more and more challenges. And obviously, it takes time, and it takes courage, because as I said in the beginning of our conversation, I consider us like helmsmen or the lighthouse. So we are not necessarily active in terms of building the decision making process, like, taking the decisions, but we are the ones suggesting, like the consultants within the organization, suggesting to take the right decisions, operating with the data. So budget is a critical point, because at the time of the chaos and the crisis, obviously when the industries are not feeling good, so it happens everywhere, the cutting the corners. And there are two elements in answering this question. So the first element is securing the budget, and obviously it relates towards finding the annual subscriptions with the organization that will help you to facilitate the work during the year, quantitatively and qualitatively. And there are lots of organizations that helps today to operate successfully in this field. The second point is about driving agility. So making sure that you are using the cost-effective solutions and continuously searching the solutions that address not only the point of doing the research, but also cost-effective, and kind of showcase these savings. And the last point, that the most important thing, it connects to what Joel started and opened the conversation today, is the value, and how you can communicate this value to make sure that you will get the budget. And for me, budget is also the articulation of the trust and the size of your team. And to do so, there are several things that I can share here. So number one is to establish clear objectives and aligning these objectives with the business KPIs of the organization, because it helps you to move in the same direction. The second is highlighting the role of insights in driving the data-driven decision making. So making sure that you are present at the meeting and you are supporting with the insights at the right moment of time. Third, linking insights to tangible business outcomes and trying to measure ROI, as you said, return on investment, trying to make some calculations that helps to suggest, like, successful launches or successful marketing campaigns, and working on how and what you have done, or your team done, or the function done, that help the company to uncover the growth. And the final and the most important thing is collaborative partnership, because we are a supporting function, so we need to be the linkage between other organizations within our organization, other departments. So we have to make sure that we collaborate and building strong relationship and partnership across department. So that would be my several points to address. But I'm very happy to hear how it happens in other organizations. So maybe we can open for the conversation.
Yeah, I'm very interested that you say we're supporting functions. I think we really, at least with my team, we make a shift towards not being supporting, but driving the function. And I think that is super important as well. When what I often see with insights managers, especially when they come from agencies like me, so I've been in that position as well, that we have a little bit of a servitude attitude, which is very good, but then you are never in the driving seat, right? So then it's more like waiting for an ask for support, while I call that pray till you catch the bouquet in a sort of wedding setting. And I think also in every organization it becomes super vital to actually own the business, just like your stakeholders do. And then move more from supporting with insights to drive business results, because then data actually becomes more of the fuel of the conversation that drives it through, instead of only maybe snippet or something like that, and a base for decision making. So you are the start of the conversation as well. And I think that has a really unique possibility to tie end-to-end insights and increase business results together. Then it becomes, you're actually an unmissable function. So you're a partner at the table, and less.
I agree with you. I think that you're underlining very important point that we need to drive in this direction. So when I said supporting, I mainly meant that we are not the one who finally take the decisions. So in this particular case, we are kind of the partners. So maybe using the word partner would be um, uh, more appropriate in this context. But I really like what you have said in terms of driving the growth and not necessarily following the agenda that is pressed up, but finding the opportunities when you can suggest and open the conversation. So kind of being less reactive and being more proactive. And I think many of our functions within the different organizations at the level of the transition, where we are today and where we want to be tomorrow. So thank you for making this point.
Very, very interesting and challenging space, everything that you're bringing up, because I think as companies evolve and as we hope to continue to add value, the world is moving faster, things are getting accelerated, the pressures on enterprises are getting heavier, and the competition, arguably, I say arguably, is getting tighter. But even internally within our own insights organizations, the challenge is then, how do you make those capabilities happen? Where do you see the trends and the changes that are taking place to be able to proactively support company agendas? So we really have to be a partner. We have to stay ahead in building our own capabilities as an insights organization or function. So David, tell us, what are you looking at, or what sources of data, technology, capabilities, and we'll talk about talent separately in another question, but what do you see changing, or what must evolve for insights to stay extremely relevant and proactive?
Yeah, I think in terms of insights, I think that's one of the, from my perspective, one of the benefits of this role in sitting in this space. As long as you're driven by curiosity, like human curiosity, and what drives people to do the things that they do, the method that you can use in order to capture those insights is widely varying, right? So I've been in this industry for longer than I'd care to admit. But I would say throughout the course of that entire time, it's changed so drastically, right? And I think part of what I would sort of say is this one piece of advice I got from one of my very first managers, which is, you can be really good, you can become an expert at one thing, but make sure to be a generalist at least in most everything else. And so what I took that to mean is ultimately finding a space or niche where you really feel the most confident and comfortable in. That's a driving value force that you have across all the different positions that you might have within an organization. It doesn't have to be a hard skill like statistical knowledge or anything like that. It could actually be something more around organizational principles and things like that. But then I think ultimately there are so many different other factors that sit within what we do. Understanding, whether it was neuroscience a couple of years ago where that became sort of a real hotbed of innovation, or now it's AI, and sort of understanding, and I talked a little bit about this during my talk yesterday, just what are the different things that you need to really think about and kind of be proactive about approaching. So from that perspective, I think it's really being able to stay up to date with methods, these conferences, talking to your peers. I think this is a very small community of individuals in terms of market research, and being really well connected within that community is super helpful, because you can just reach out to people and ask for their opinions and just understand a little bit more about how they approach different sort of challenges. I think the other bit is really about encouraging, as a manager, for example, encouraging a test and learn mentality. Because I think there's a lot of budgetary pressures that we are always faced with. And obviously we want to prioritize our work accordingly, making sure that we have a firm measurement attached to everything, like what we were just talking about. But I think ultimately driving and sort of encouraging that curiosity, I think, is incredibly important for the vitality of the industry as a whole, and making sure that we all feel, like we're getting up out of bed and really excited about the work that we're about to embark on. So really encouraging that sort of test and learn mentality, I think, is incredibly important. And then I think maybe less so on the hard skills, but then also in the soft skill component of it, organizationally, we want to become indispensable partners to our companies and our industries and our groups that we sort of work with. If we want to do that, there are communication skills, methods of sort of talking that you really want to be able to become proficient at in order to be able to succinctly communicate your points, be able to make sure that you are able to speak to an executive audience and make sure that you are ultimately driving the impact that you seek to drive.
Yeah, David, I love that word curiosity that you mentioned, because that is, for me, the number one characteristic of a fantastic researcher, is somebody who has that positive curiosity to dig in, break things apart, put them back together again, and try and figure out how something works, and isn't afraid about certain things that are new, actively embraces them and goes out to sort of learn about them. And the way and the test and learn part also resonated with me, because one of the things that the way I see insights now is, I think we used to be a pen where it was very much around in ink testing, validating, crossing, it is or it isn't, it's correct, it's not. So we would we were pens, but now we're pencils, because the pencil is, as you test, you learn, you rub something out, you learn something new, you replace it, you create artistry with the pencil, you're a storyteller with that pencil. You're no longer sort of a rigid fact pen-based person. You're now a pencil and an artist as you kind of create the storylines, and you can change them using test and learn. So I totally love those 2 points about test and learn and curiosity.
I think to that point too, like that has always been the demarcation for me, as I've managed like a lot of more junior researchers as they're emerging into their career. There's a moment in time where you start looking at the data and it starts, something clicks. You can synthesize the data and storytell with that data, at which point it all becomes easier. It unlocks so many different components for you moving forward, because then now suddenly communicating becomes easier, becoming that indispensable partner becomes easier. You now are a proactive member of the team, as opposed to somebody who's taking in requests. And so I think that's a mentality that really needs to be encouraged.
Yeah, and I think at that point you shift from being purely always having the data in my back pocket so that I can rely on it, to taking perhaps a little bit more risks and tying different pieces of research together in conversation. You may not know the answer directly, but if you know that if that is true and this is true and this is true, it's more than likely going to point out that that is likely to be true. So it enables you to get to solutions that are probably guided a little bit more. But you do have to, you talk about that moment that you have to break out. There is a moment where you suddenly turn from, I always have to fact check everything, to I have to rely on what I've known and the decision points that are around in the past to basically pinpoint me to where the likely solution is.
Let's take sort of a dichotomy of behavioral data and analytics off of behavior versus primary research, warm and cold, but survey-based data, and the analytics between the two. Like, so there's insights and analytics. We hear these words. What is the role of analytics right now in insights? Is that and I'm not talking about statistical analysis of surveys. I'm talking about the behavioral data that comes in and that people want to run attribution models on and want to see patterns and bring stuff back to us. Does that sit in insights for your function? Joel, I'll ask you this, and maybe Lubov, given your PhD in data science, it would be very interesting to hear your point of view as well. But where does analytics and that sit with the primary research methods and work that we do?
Yeah, it's super interesting, and it's coincidental, I think, that you chose me for that, because so one of the things that we have within Insights at IKEA is probably about 50-60% of my team is analytics and data and technology. So product owners, data scientists, data engineers, everything, tech leads, all that kind of stuff. And the other half of 40% is insights, right? Typical insights types of people. And I'm finding over time, it's more rare and rare to find that within an insights organization, because that truly is like insights, analytics, tech, data together. And it's more like, it's like a tech Spotify type of model that we replicated, right? And that we put in. And I think that really, really works because you need, how do I put it? I always say to people, if you're an insights person without data and analytics, then you're just somebody with an opinion. And our company has many peoples with an opinion, right? And so that sort of gives you that objectivity and foundation that's there. However, if you're just analytical, and I typically find this with people who are like super, super analytical, it's typically difficult to elevate it, into the so what, so how in that business. But I think Miles Davis is sort of alluding to a little bit, almost that dilemma or dichotomy between like business understanding and depth with technical capability, right? And it's almost like looking for a unicorn. And whenever I've tried to hire somebody that's like super business, super insightful, but also like great at technology and data analytics, it's like, I don't think I've ever found somebody. I found maybe one or two that are similar to that. I have one or two in my team now, but it's a unicorn that you're trying to get to. So I think what I found is it's hard to find a person that has that, but it's really powerful to have a team that has that. So my tech leads and data scientists knowing what my insight leaders do and vice versa and how it connects is super powerful in order to drive that forward. So typically it's always been a little bit disconnected, I suppose you could say. Then I think the second thing that we've always talked about as an industry, right, where we went from like traditional survey research, pen and paper, into social listening, behavioral data, and David, you probably, it's Citibank, right? So like proper behavioral monetary data, what people are buying, spending, whatever. There's always like the, forget all the surveys, we just want to use behavioral stuff because that was all wrong, right? And the industry kind of pendulum swings on that. And then you go, oh yeah, but now we have all these tons of issues that are there. And it's never about one is greater than the other. I think, David, you alluded to this before. It's what's the right thing at the right time and how do you combine it? Because it's never about the data. Data is not the end, right? Analytics isn't the end. If we think data and analytics is the end, then we're missing something. Business value creation, because of an insight that's driven by analytics, that's enabled by data, is that part. And I think when we get that working together in harmony, then it becomes super powerful. If we focus and we obsess with one, then we're in a very dangerous place.
And maybe to build on that, so I totally agree with all you said, Joel. So data is the foundation for our department, and especially having hard facts in navigating the future and helping to take the right decision is the critical thing. So in Electrolex, data is very important, and we are kind of acquiring this intelligent piece, and maybe very soon you will see this intelligence as a part of our names of the department and our position, because data is a very critical thing. So in general, what I would like to comment here that the technology was the driving factor of growing insights as a function, as an industry. During the last maybe 5 years, the growth accelerated because of the technology, and it links to the data. And today, AI is a very big topic that we have to acquire and, like, trying to understand how we're going to work effectively. But what Joel said also kind of, I totally agree with that they're articulating the data and trying to drive the right conclusion. It would be still the human's work that we would be doing ourselves. So if you didn't read yet the recent article that Azumar published about AI, I'm inviting you to read about it. So maybe I will share in my LinkedIn to share this piece of the information with everyone.
Wonderful. And speaking of intelligence, there is somebody in our midst who has the title intelligence in their name. So Sarah, you are Global Director, Intelligence and Marketing Strategies, but I just kind of want to shift the conversation a little bit towards insights and culture. And what is the culture like on your team? Do you feel like, or what kind of culture do you strive to create? Because as we think about all these hard skills and capabilities, it's important to think about the softer side and our employees and what they need. So what are your thoughts on, or if you could describe a little bit about your insights culture, and if it's differed from your previous experiences, a little on that would be lovely.
For me, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, so I think I have the luxury that I have intelligence and marketing strategies in one team, right? So that enables a lot already when it comes to merging actually what we discover with what we put in practice in one seamless goal. So and it's also end to end, so it's both upstream and downstream. So I think that's sort of a luxury setting that we're in with my team. It's also the first time that we do it in Philips, so maybe we figure it out on the go. But I think what is important for me is that my team also understands very much the business acumen, right? So how can we bring down the impact? I think impact was already a word mentioned before, on not only our customers and our patients, but also our P&L. So when it comes to urgent versus important. And when it comes to sprint versus marathon, if it's not clicking into either of these three sort of pillars of impact, we won't do it. So I think that is the culture. But for that, you also need to understand. So speak business acumen to make that decision, right? No one is going to do that for you. We're all experts, and you decide where you feel your focus, the insights that you're gathering, the proposition from the voice of customer to the data analytics to all the different flavors that I have in my team. They all sort of merge together, but always to these three pillars. And for me, it's important that I understand how the business works. So it's not about delivery of data. It's about the ownership that pushes it through until the end result. You are as much owner as the stakeholder that you're working together with.
Yes, and that's, having that sort of culture and understanding of the business and being deep in that means employees have to be, or our insights managers and our teams have to be at the ready to, at a relatively senior level, to go shoulder to shoulder, even as we begin to bring in, people from all levels, so that we have a very, very robust and representative pipeline of talent. And so employee needs, of course, have changed and have changed a lot during the pandemic. So Miles, tell us, how have you experienced the changes in employees' needs? And I think there's a question from Patrick in the Q&A as well. Would love for you to touch upon that.
Yeah, sure. I can touch upon Patrick's question. Great one. So I think obviously as COVID rolled around, suddenly everybody wanted to hear from insights people. And we were like, finally, they're listening. Like, we've had all of these insights ready to go. And now we're doing weekly analysis. We're doing bi-monthly check-ins. What's happening to the business? We were like in the driving seat. It was fantastic. And that, I think, drove also a slight shift in some of the corporate lip service or genuine belief, where they started to say, we're a consumer-centric company. We put consumers at the heart of everything that we do. And so as insights people, we were listening to that saying, fantastic, you're playing the song that we've been trying to ask for a long time. But now, as time has gone on, we start seeing that even though there is those sayings, sometimes they don't actually follow those things. They still make decisions based on either money, shareholder value. So you find that insights people are now saying, but we're trying to hold them accountable for putting consumers at the heart of everything. And we're like almost pushing those arguments, and we're kind of looking at it and saying, we're seeing some disconnect between what the company says it does and how it actually makes decisions, whether it's truly at the heart of consumers or whether it's the heart of financial value. So I think what I've seen insights people start to struggle with now is, well, if consumers are at the heart of what we do, why am I not growing at the pace of what I would like to be growing at? Because I'm driving consumer decisions. I'm pushing that narrative, and it's a strategically important factor now. So there's a growing dissatisfaction, I think, at the pace of growth that insights people are seeing. I just had a conversation yesterday with someone on that I mentor that is facing this very problem, where they're saying, I've been in this role for 2 to 3 years and I'm not seeing any growth trajectory. I've been an exceed. I'm considered a high performer, an exceed. And I think this ties into Patrick's question is, they're starting to say, well, where do I go next? And I think insights people have two choices. They can try to evolve in profession. So in the existing places where they know, so get deeper into AI, become an expert at ChatGPT and its impacts on what research is going to happen. Don't be on the nervous side or the stick your head in the sand side. Be the active driver and bring it. Talk about cloud computing and what that does. Think about all of the new technology and become the spokesperson for that. There you become that expert. The other way is beyond profession. So start to dabble, as the word Patrick used in the chat. Start to think about the fact that because you're an insights person, you bring a lot of value to other functions. You bring a lot of value to, say, marketing, where you speak for consumers and you're putting consumers into all of the creation of all of your creative, your ads, your messaging. All of that drive is founded on consumer behavior. Other places, actually, you can go even further. Innovation, quality, Even HR is starting to see a lot more insights people, particularly on the analytics side, start to lean in. If you drive a great dashboard and you know how to do great visualization, your stretch is way beyond just in the insights function. In General Motors, we have 40,000 dashboards and we do 65. So think of all of the spread that you can go to in different parts of the organization. So to Patrick's question, like, don't be afraid of seeing the value as an insights person stretching beyond into new places. And I think beyond that, what's universal is everybody wants to have really strong mentorship. Everybody wants to have guidance. Everybody, as Anna Steres says, wants to understand how to drive impact, drive influence, work through to drive the word impact that David was talking about. All of those things are universal. But what I'm starting to see is just a growing kind of dissatisfaction with the state of how fast people are growing inside of insights, if insights truly is what drives a company.
I want to come back to a little bit on this as we get to our last few minutes here, actually 3 minutes. Anastera, you'd mentioned, of course, a bit about catching that bouquet. Just a very, very fun way of saying, we need to have our seat at the executive table. But what does that look like? And I'm opening this up to everybody. What does that look like to you?
Yeah. So I'm a go-getter, ambitious girl, right? I mean, I'm on my 7th role in 7 years. But what I figured out, that actually seat at the table is only a means to an end. So I don't want to break any bubble on that one, but if you're focused to having a seat on the table, you might not find the blissful feeling that you hope you get. It's actually what I notice works way better is if you are courageous enough to design the table, your own table, or your own wedding for that matter, where people really want to sit on because they will be successful with what you bring. So you actually then turn it around a little bit. You create the environment with the people who will use, who will utilize, who will partner, or you will partner with them to bring it completely to the end. So I think that means that insights generation, or everything that we're doing, marketing strategy, is really part of the success story. We're not snippets in it. We're the driver and the partner in it. And actually that makes you a valid partner at any table to, in the end, have a sort of happily ever after finishing on that one.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Yeah, I'd say there's a lot of builds from all these different parts of the conversation in terms of being a good partner can open up some of those doors, as well as Miles was talking about as well, in terms of looking at different areas where you could grow as a professional. It doesn't necessarily need to be within the insight space. But then also, and you've got a real life example here in terms of really having that hybrid role where you're not just doing the insights, but actually implementing them as well. So I think there's a constant evolution that's been happening across multiple different companies. And I think that's where it gets really exciting in terms of where this could end up. But I would definitely say, for if there's any sort of younger researchers or folks who are just starting their career, listening to this, I think that's a big component of it, is to not be afraid, to be courageous, and to really approach those tables with a lot more courage and knowledge, and that there's a really good you deserve that seat at the table, and something that can really become impactful for the company.
So driving this forward, designing our own table, insights leaders are Renaissance leaders, really. It doesn't matter what age or stage you're at. Prioritizing your scope, demonstrating your value, big challenges. I think this is a topic we could go on at least 3 hours on. There's so much to do and say, and I don't see any other questions in the Q&A, and I know we're at time, Sophia, so I'll let you say the last words here.
So maybe building on what David and Steer was talking about. So the best insights are born in the conversation, in my point of view. So, and where you take this conversation at the table with the board of directors when they are kind of discussing the broader objectives, or you're creating your own meetings and their own conversations. So maybe matters less. So, but obviously, driving the value and building the trust, so the place would be owned. So, what David suggested, actually. So, I totally agree with that.
super. So I just wanted to say thank you all for taking your time from Japan to the USA, and on holiday, at work. You've been excellent. You've been generous. You've been inspiring. And so thank you for that. Our closing keynote is the following session, and it's Tanya Misad, Senior VP and Global Head of Corporate Research at Warner Brothers Discovery, and she's going to be talking about data science versus research. So please migrate to the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.